Triple H, WWE Hall of Famer, one of the greatest of the Attitude Era, has officially been the head of the WWE creative team, or the chief content officer, for over 3 years now. And there's no denying that his entry into this position is directly led to the hottest era of WWE since the Attitude Era. We've seen pockets of brilliance since the especially wild, all over the place, ruthless aggression era, the hot periods of the 2010s, but this is something different. When Triple H came into the mix, he took his years of experience working as a top-level talent and applied it with a creative team at another level. After also running WWE NXT, the game-changing developmental brand of WWE, and making it one of the hottest wrestling shows in the world. So it made sense that with a different philosophy, a fresher perspective after Vince McMahon was out of the picture, and a motivated locker room coming out of the pandemic, that things would take a turning point. And between the summer of 2022 and well into 2024, and maybe even beyond, depending on who you talk to, things have gone always in a better direction for WWE. At least most of it. Business is booming for WWE, especially overseas, with a massive expansion of international premium live events. They are a hot ticket under their new ownership. Yeah, but somewhere in 2025, a certain tone, specifically amongst the diehard fans of the internet wrestling community, it has changed for the worse, at least for some of them. That goodwill that diehard fans praised upon Triple H has suddenly become fickle, and they've turned against everything, with WWE slowly wearing off. The invincibility of WWE is just dipped a bit. It's still up there. They're still tippy top. They are still the top of the industry, but maybe there's just some general discontent, specifically within the die-hard portion of the fan base. So what happened with these surly dudes and ladies that have been riding hard with WWE? Why has Triple H and his vision and others next to him maybe not been exactly what people dreamed it could be? Even though in the eyes of the casual fan, it still may very much be that. So join us as we take a deep dive into the big issues for Triple H and WWE right now. Yeah, let's address the TKO elephant in the room and all of that stuff. This is Sportskeeda Wrestling. I'm Kevin Kellum. Let me know what you think is good and what you think is bad in the comments below with WWE. Yes, you can sound off, but you gotta tell us what's good, and you gotta tell us what's bad. Let's address the TKO elephant in the room. The biggest portion of this, something that even Triple H really isn't responsible for, but certainly something he has to serve. The new ownership of WWE and TKO, and how they want to run the business, and how that all trickles down to some maybe unpopular decisions with even the most casual fans of everything WWE. Some prime examples are WWE canceling WrestleMania 42 in the previously announced destination of New Orleans, Louisiana, so that they could get a $5 million extra tax cut, reportedly, from Las Vegas, Nevada for the second consecutive year of a WrestleMania there. Yeah, then collecting a reported whopping $250 million from WrestleMania's 43 acquisition with Saudi Arabia, their long-term partner, which has long been expected to get a WrestleMania. So, yeah, a lot of big money. Are they supposed to turn away from money? No. And yes, ticket prices for live events for WWE right now feel sky high. Due to increased demand, the biggest factor, a secondary ticket resale market that drives up the prices for money that's made well beyond WWE even selling the ticket to you or anyone else, and TKO understanding how to benefit from all of those factors for their own long-term business goals. Eventually, the trickle-down falls on the consumer, and the consumer complains about it, but they don't complain to the person reselling the ticket to them at 4 or 5 times the face value, or the demand just driving up the face value of the ticket. So with all that being said, we'll focus more exclusively in this photo on what we can see, the creative side of things, with what Triple H and his creative team are doing, what may be falling short, what is hitting, and what just has the internet freaking out in general. We got a lot of praise on him because of his old school booking philosophy that plays on long-term payoffs, something that felt antithetical to what we were getting from WWE before Triple H took over. When it came to the Bloodline, Gunther's Intercontinental Championship reign, Rhea Ripley's run of dominance, there are elements of predictability that hit. They just hit. Not everything that is predictable is bad when you build up to moments you want to see. But where Triple H has succeeded is also a fact of timing really being hit on as well. There is a concise sense of that with what WWE does on big-term payoffs. But this is a modern age where the fans ask things in a fickle way where they simply want something so fast and they don't get it as soon as they want. That means most of the feuds play out as they should. Things take time to build up organically. The payoff, while a bit more predictable, nevertheless, is satisfying to watch for the viewer. It became clear that Triple H was a bigger fan of long-term championship reigns that gave each title more meaning, more credibility. It meant more when you won them and when someone lost them. It added a greater legitimacy, a sports sense of psychology to whoever holds the title. They're the man or they're the woman. The only issue is with that, there's another delicate tightrope that needs to be watched. Long title reigns certainly elevate certain superstars, but we go back to that fickle point. Does the audience have the patience for all of that? Some of that falls on the audience, less of it falls on Triple H, but they're the ones that have to deal with the consequences. Yes, it's supposed to mean something when you win a title, but the flip side is also, as we mentioned, consequential. What about the opportunities for other superstars to take their careers to the next level? What about my guy I'm rooting for that doesn't have the big strap with him? With his long-term storytelling approach, there are certain storylines like Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, that maybe get dragged on way too longer than they needed to. In 2025, that even worsened because still we have Nia Jax versus Tiffany Stratton being teased when it should have ended back in January. Not all of the long in the tooth storylines still have the bite when they're so long in the tooth. Not everyone can sustain the momentum naturally in WWE. Maybe even a long story, for example, like Rhea Ripley's that we mentioned, is harder to push beyond because we got reeled into that first tone, that first emotion, and keeping that going beyond the certain players with it, and the central player in Rhea Ripley is just hard to sustain. Rhea Ripley is by far one of the hottest superstars in WWE right now. But the booking she receives maybe doesn't do her favors. She's been part of the women's world title picture for so much, at this point she has no need to even hold the title. It does nothing to further legitimize her or even the people that beat her for the title. When Triple H could take the approach of putting her in a non-title storyline to elevate other superstars, he actively chose to shove her back into the title picture over and over again. The audience wanted to see it, but then got mad when they saw it. It's kind of hard. It's a lot of spinning of plates, and how do you maintain her but also elevate other star power at the same time? It's a lot to do. For every success story like a Rhea Ripley, Gunther, Dominic Mysterio, who's dominating, Tiffany Stratton, who blew up big, Sami Zayn, who's just a babyface everyone loves to root for, you have superstars who've fallen down the cards or left the company, like an Austin Theory, Karrion Kross, who's out of the picture, Bobby Lashley, who's over in AEW, Chad Gable, who unfortunately suffered an injury at the wrong time, and so many more. Some of this is natural, but to the fans watching, it's why isn't this guy or gal going up? Yeah, they're taking their tweezers out and plucking those loose hairs. You also have stars like Solo Sikoa, who've experienced multiple start and stop moments. From being the successor to the tribal chief, he just kind of feels like he's there. Some of this, like I mentioned, is natural as the sun and the moon. But as WWE grows, so does the expectation of the audience. Things kicked off with the first 3-hour SmackDown, then the Raw moved to Netflix, and all the gigantic expanded expectation there. And it seems like there's just a drop-off, maybe a level of complacency from some fans, not so much WWE. They're feeding the machine, but more is not always better. More WWE in terms of what we get from the weekly TV shows with Raw on Netflix, specifically the 3-hour SmackDowns on USA Network in the United States, doesn't mean it's better. There's a little bit of a consistency issue division to division. Let's take, for example, the tag teams. The New Day, one of the greatest tag team acts in the history of modern-day WWE, their heel turn, though exciting at first, floundered. The Judgment Day's World Tag Team title run doesn't mean what it used to mean, and often on SmackDown you're left wondering who the actual champions might be. Yeah, it jumps around with a level of kind of where do I actually sink my teeth in. Maybe it doesn't have that long-term feeling that the other storylines do. Yet we got some great matches from the tag team division, like that awesome, very underrated, wild, table-breaking, ladder-smashing, underrated TLC match at SummerSlam, where the Wyatt Six slithered out of TLC with the titles. But the women's division, it seems like there's only a select few who can get the push, while others are thrust completely out of the spotlight. Yeah, as of this writing, the priority seems to be given to Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, Jade Cargill, Becky Lynch, and to a very small extent, Lyra Valkyria. Either way, Evolution 2025, WWE's anticipated follow-up of an all-women's supercard, was proof that WWE can deliver some exceptional moments for the women of WWE. But fans want things like that more consistently. Yeah, and it also operates in conflict with maybe some stated vision from Triple H, where, with no bad intention, that he felt the women of WWE should aspire to be on the regular shows more often rather than having an exclusive premium live event to themselves. And there was backlash to that. When Evolution happened and real fans got to see it, it turned out to be one of the best premium live events of the year. But that's the problem with WWE and them putting out so much stuff and the ticket prices being so high. Fans want something like that all the time. The expectations grow. There's so much quality in one division, it's insane to think that startation. It's clear that Triple H may have his favorites, and the creative team may have focus on a handful of people who are getting over, but that's our next bit of criticism, a direct reference to something being said by a good friend here of Sportskeeda, ex-WWE creative head, the always controversial Vince Russo, who will say things to stir the pot, but say things he truly means. Russo has been at the seat that Triple H is in before, albeit at a much different scale, and he has had an incredible understanding of the creative process of WWE. More often than not, he has been labeling Triple H as a pop merchant, and what exactly does that mean? We'll explain. Basically, a pop merchant refers to someone who books a show purely for the purpose of getting great responses from live audiences while ignoring the much live viewership of television, or in this day and age, streaming and the YouTube clips and all of that. Maybe this is more obvious when the still high in demand for the thing they haven't seen this regularly in years, the fans in Europe, what they get, where their audience reactions are wild and through the roof. In 2025, we've seen 2 European tours with Raw, SmackDown, and premium live events held in a major European city. The crowds are incredible. There's no doubt about it. That is awesome. The passion is out of this world. It is emotional pyrotechnics. It is special to see. Yeah, especially when they don't get it as often as fans in the United States and North America. It's quite clear WWE makes almost maybe a limited amount of effort to book around that overwhelming reaction because the crowd is the show. And there's nothing wrong with that. Crowds have always been the wrestling show. But is WWE adapting to how to play to the fans at home week to week who just watch casually? Everything is done to receive maximum reactions, which is the psychological core of professional wrestling, which gives the illusion that WWE shows are hot, which they are. Yeah, it probably explains why ticket sales are booming, and maybe you still have diehard fans still complaining. The model has worked for them. It will continue to work, by the way. But once again, it's something where, are they chasing short-term profits? and still playing into long-term creative visions. Spinning plates, maintaining expectations, yeah, you keep hearing us hear these notes. This may seem like a major surprise to someone who's thrown out the window and just observing this thing from afar. How do you develop a show that plays to 15,000 fans, the diehard fans that want to see it, but then you have those still same diehard fans online complaining about the show, and then you have live audiences of tens of millions watching around the world, maybe feeling that it's all inconsistent and it doesn't feel cohesive. It's hard not to see why this is hard to sustain. And where's the fallout from all of this? From now on, WWE has built up enough goodwill with fans who are going to keep buying tickets. WrestleMania sells WrestleMania. Royal Rumble sells Royal Rumble. Once again, we're not blaming Triple H for ticket prices and things like that. That's all demand. If you want to see it, people are going to pay more for it and they're going to make more money from it, but don't let that deter you from the show being amazing. These European fans are losing their minds, but that doesn't mean the TV show matches the same sentiment. Yeah. Where they excelled at storytelling in the past, is it harder to sustain that? And Triple H and his team maybe find themselves in a little bit of stagnation and muddy waters in all of this, where it feels like a swamp is growing and maybe becoming messy and hard to get out of. Raw in particular feels like it may be on a loop of Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman, and The Vision main eventing against a combination of top stars like Jey Uso, LA Knight, and CM Punk. Yeah, and then we get that again. It may be the top angle that delivers, but the rest of the show feels like a mixed bag outside of them. On SmackDown, the situation seems to be worse, with the overall show lacking the same top-level star power that Raw has. So with the viewing of great matches on free TV or streaming becoming the standard, why exactly is the pace of premium live events in Raw and SmackDown so all over the place? Something hits, and then something doesn't. In 2025, Triple H seems to have not hit that main point of everything feeling as meaningful as it should be. Actual characters having the development at a pace that makes sense overall for all of them. Even when it comes with favorite stars like Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, and Sami Zayn, and others. When was the last compelling storyline outside of the main event for WWE? You had big angles with Drew McIntyre and CM Punk over a long period of time. But where are those other ones down the card that have other fans watching week to week? It can't just be the top of the card that delivers the heat, the intensity, the hatred, the grudges. All of the show has to feel like it means something. Try to explain that character to a non-wrestling fan when they don't know who they are if they're not at the top level. You see what we're saying? Yeah, the depth doesn't feel like it's being played into. It's likely a sign of the times, but as much as things change for the better with WWE, as much as it's a wrestler-friendlier environment that it is now compared to the days of old, there's still going to be those elements of fans of the old era and today feeling like, are you holding my favorites back? Yeah, that's just always going to be there, and maybe it feels louder now. You pair that with the new short-term money-making mentality that is present in WWE, as it has always been. It just feels louder now with, maybe the ticket prices and the way that everything is going in the worldwide economy in general that WWE has to exist in. Triple H is in all of this, and he's going to make the best plays that he feels he has to make. Another factor we have to talk about is the world outside of WWE and how WWE responds to it with constantly counteracting All Elite Wrestling, their biggest rival, with premium live events going head-to-head all the time. That leaves the same fans who might complain about booking now feeling like they have to choose between WWE and AEW when it comes to live premium events they want to watch on the weekends. You're not going to have people complaining about the quality of the wrestlers on the roster because that's simply not the case. A few years ago, WWE's chief executive Nick Khan told Ariel Helwani in an interview with BT Sport that WWE's mentality was like a horse with blinders on. They're not looking at all of the other competition, but why are you always counteracting it? That's just an obvious question. It's worth noting in all of this, fans have options, AEW's Tony Khan seems to have realized this, as we've seen a lot of improvements with AEW in 2025. They've adapted to all of it, where it seems like the man, dude, bro portion of WWE's audience can express their discontent online like they did in 2018, and maybe get lured back into watching AEW on a more consistent basis. But WWE seems more interested in thwarting their competition and establishing dominance, which, why wouldn't they? If you're going to compete with WWE, they will compete right back. It's all natural. Yes, this is the art of a wrestling war. We've seen this over the last few years, and we can witness some of the best stories and matches within WWE that have delivered consistently, and others will show up and get behind it, and others will not. This is a part of what happens with wrestling. But when there are so many leaks in the fortress of WWE, and the foundation changes and the structure changes and fans adapt to those changes, we have to note how those changes maybe make those leaks in the fortress a little bit more noticeable. With all that said, we're rooting for things to turn around and become as great and as fantastic as we want. Moments like the ending of WrestleMania 40 again. Wouldn't you like that? Until the next time, thank you for watching, and let us know what you think is good and bad about WWE right now.